This means like you're stuck in the past. I find it interesting that he was drawn back to this. You go back to a regret that you have in your life. Or maybe you've constantly find yourself saying things like this: if only I hadn't been abused. If only my father hadn't left me. If I had not made this decision in my life. If I didn't have that bully when I was in school. The list goes on and on. We hear it all the time as we're out witnessing to individuals in our outreaches about people. And they don't talk about their future and the great plans and desires that they have. They talk about their wounds. They talk about how badly they have failed in life. They talk about their failed marriages. They've talked about their kids that don't want to talk to them any longer. I want you to recognize tonight the strategy of the enemy. What he wants to do is to destroy your life. He wants to destroy your potential, and part of the way that he will do this is by holding you in regret to the past. You live in sorrow of what ifs and lost opportunities. Jesus dealt with this. Do you know this? In the Garden of Gethsemane, Matthew 26, I think this is what the cup that he was referring to. You remember he was challenging his disciples, can you drink the cup that I'm about to drink of? And there was this bitter cup that he knew he was facing as he was approaching the cross. And what I believe that cup is it's pain, it's sorrow, it's sin, it's the filth of the world. And he knows that this is what lays before him. He knows that this is what he has to receive upon himself if he's going to redeem the world. In Matthew 26, it says in the garden, he was overwhelmed with sorrow. Has anybody ever felt that way? He was overwhelmed with sorrow. I can't believe, I found myself saying it so often, guys, that the night that I turned my life to Jesus, I remember I got bailed out of jail. I was looking at a DUI, and I remember sitting on the corner of my bed, and I can't believe that I failed again. I was overwhelmed with sorrow. And I remember I had two thoughts that went into my head. Number one, I had the thought that I'm going to end this right now. I know if I get a legal record, I've blown my scholarship opportunities. I know I can't go to the school that I want to. My life is over. I'm just going to end it now. And I had another thought, and I knew that Jesus was available, and that's thankfully the direction that I went. But I want you to understand, Jesus has been there. He knows what it is to be overwhelmed with sorrow. He knows what it is to have the guilt and the sin of the entire world that lays ahead of him and that he's carrying upon himself. He knows what this feels like. But watch this. Jesus didn't stay overwhelmed with sorrow. He went to the cross. And I want you to listen to me. Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 2. It encourages us to keep our eyes set on Jesus, who is the pioneer and the perfecter of our faith. And I like that word pioneer. What that means is that he's blazing a trail. You know, Jesus has gone before us. He's laid out a path before us. Now we get to follow alongside him. And so he's laid out this path, and he endured the cross. The Bible says in Hebrews 12, he endured the cross, he endured the shame, he endured the scorn. Does anybody know why? For the joy that was set before him. Think about this. Overwhelmed with sorrow, overwhelmed with shame, overwhelmed with scorn. He endures the cross for joy. For joy of redemption, of salvation. You know what part of that is? You know what part of that joy was? It was you and me. He says, I'm overwhelmed with sorrow. I'm overwhelmed with grief. I'm overwhelmed with all of these emotions, but I'm going to endure it because there's people that I want to bring to myself. Church, that ought to inspire us so incredible. I don't believe that you and I have the right to stay overwhelmed with sorrow. I believe that what we need to do is we need to shake off sorrow. Lord, I'm sorry for the things that I've done, but if you endured the cross so that you could step into joy, I'm walking that path that you have blazed before me. I'm going to step into your joy. I'm going to set aside shame and sorrow and scorn. I'm going after you, Jesus. It's found in the cross, church. It's only found in the cross of Jesus Christ.